walk into a hotel, you find the ballroom, you sit at that standard round table with the white tablecloth, and you just wait for the chicken or the fish.
Right, the classic experience.
Exactly. It's comfortable. It is entirely predictable. But looking at this stack of research you sent over regarding the 2026 landscape for luxury weddings,
Oh, yeah.
that predictable hotel ballroom is completely dead.
I mean,
We are looking at a fundamental dismantling of the traditional wedding venue.
absolutely. It's a total rewrite of the rules.
It really is. You asked us to look into the future of these dramatic, wow factor spaces, and the sheer logistical scale of what is happening in this industry is just staggering. We are bypassing the standard maps entirely today.
We really are.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Why are traditional banquet halls out? And why is the modern couple treating their wedding like this massive, immersive, cinematic experience?
Well, what's fascinating here is that this is not just about couples wanting pretty locations. If we look at the underlying data in the documents you provided, we're seeing a massive shift in experiential storytelling. Modern couples are using these venues as an extension of their personal branding.
Personal branding, wow.
Exactly. A wedding is no longer just a familial milestone. It has become this highly curated expression of identity, lifestyle, and values. The venue isn't just a container for the event anymore.
It's this statement.
It is the opening statement, yes.
It's like weddings have evolved from a simple dinner party into a big budget immersive theater production where the guests are essentially drafted as part of the cast.
That's a great way to put it.
You aren't just inviting people to watch you get married anymore. You are, requiring them to step into a completely altered reality.
That is a highly accurate way to frame it. The source material explicitly points out that modern couples are actively replacing traditional venues with what they literally call experiential spaces.
Experiential spaces, got it.
Right. They are chasing a specific emotional resonance. It's a societal shift, really, away from those cookie-cutter events toward exclusive, deeply private, and highly controlled environments. And this is where it gets highly technical behind the scenes.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, you have luxury brands and specialized wedding planners, companies like Weddizer, for example, who are pioneering this space by operating way more like Hollywood production designers than traditional planners.
Wait, so they're essentially treating a wedding like a corporate product launch or like a film shoot.
Yeah.
How does a wedding planner even act like a production designer?
By utilizing the exact same tools. They aren't just looking at catering menus anymore. They are doing location scouting with LiDAR scanning to map out a historic courtyard.
Wait, LiDAR, like laser scanning?
Yes, literally scanning the architecture. They are calculating the exact angle of the sun at, say, 6:15 p.m. to ensure the natural lighting hits the couple perfectly during the vows.
That is insane.
It's wild. They are blending structural architecture with high-end hospitality. It's a massive logistical load to ensure that the environment does the heavy lifting for the narrative they're trying to tell.
Which makes sense, because before we can even look at the specific locations you highlighted in the data, we really have to wrap our heads around the pressure these couples are under.
Oh, the pressure is immense.
Right. The standard hotel ballroom doesn't deliver that level of emotional resonance, and it definitely doesn't deliver on the other massive driver here, social media optimization.
Exactly. The grid.
The demand for cinematic photography is completely reshaping the physical architecture of these events.
And knowing that couples demand that theatrical, intense visual impact, well, that naturally leads us to the spaces they're selecting as their stage.
Right.
What is incredible in your sources is that the architectural trends are pulling in two completely opposite directions simultaneously. On one end, you have the deeply historical, and on the other, the ultra-futuristic.
Right, let's start with the historical. The data points heavily toward European castles and cliffside venues.
Classic luxury.
Yeah, we are talking about locations in Italy, France, Greece, and Scotland. Picture centuries-old stone architecture, sunset ceremony terraces, candlelit courtyards, and infinity pools that literally hang over the ocean. It's basically fairy tale luxury meeting modern elegance.
The mechanism at play here is borrowed gravitas.
A borrowed gravitas, I like that.
Yeah, when you place an event in a historic Scottish castle, you don't need to build an atmosphere from scratch. You are instantly adopting centuries of romance and permanence. The architecture provides an immediate, psychological anchor for the guests.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Are couples choosing these dramatic cliffside castles purely for that romantic gravitas? Or is this primarily driven by the pressure to have unparalleled cinematic photography for their social media feeds?
That's the big question.
Because an infinity pool overlooking the agency at sunset feels very, strategically optimized for the grid.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is undeniably a symbiotic blend of both. You really cannot separate the emotional experience from the visual documentation in 2026.
They're tied together.
Completely tied together. The cliffside castle provides that timeless elegance which satisfies the internal emotional requirement, but the visual majesty satisfies the external social media requirement.
Right.
But to your point about controlling the visual output, you can see this desire perfectly reflected in the direct opposite trend your source highlights, the futuristic glass domes.
Oh man, the glass domes are wild. We are talking about fully transparent geometric structures, often placed to feature panoramic skyline views or just deep wilderness.
Yes.
But wait, practically speaking, aren't you essentially building a giant greenhouse?
Yeah.
How do you put 200 guests in a glass box in the middle of summer without it turning into an absolute sauna?
Well, that is the exact logistical hurdle these luxury planners are solving, and it comes down to engineering. These aren't just, panes of standard glass. We are looking at electrochromic smart glass.
Electrochromic.
Yeah, it automatically tints based on the exterior UV index to manage solar heat gain.
Oh, so the building itself is reacting to the weather.
Precisely. And the climate control isn't your standard air conditioning either. To maintain that minimalist, ultra-modern aesthetic, the HVAC systems are heavily disguised.
Where do they hide them?
They're often ported through raised subflooring so you don't see massive industrial vents ruining the photos.
That is a staggering amount of hidden infrastructure just to make it look like you're sitting outside.
It is nature on demand. The reason these domes are becoming highly desirable, especially for evening receptions, is that they represent a desire to merge raw nature with pristine, controlled interiors.
So you get the best of both worlds.
Exactly. You get the stars, you get the panoramic sky, you get immersive lighting installations reflecting off the glass, but you don't have to worry about a sudden gust of wind destroying a $10,000 floral arrangement. It's the ultimate architectural illusion.
So if the glass dome is about controlling the natural environment, what happens when you want to completely erase the outside world? Because the deep dive into your sources takes us from the cliffs and the skies down into the water and then out into the absolute middle of nowhere.
The extreme environments, yes. This is where the logistical load-in becomes almost military in scale.
You're not kidding. The document details underwater and aquarium venues, calling this the, quote, ultimate luxury wow factor.
It really is.
We are talking massive marine life backdrops, floating floral decor, and this enveloping blue ambient lighting. But seriously, how does an underwater venue actually function for a guest? Humans aren't exactly built to socialize in a submarine environment.
It's all about the psychology of sensory alteration.
Okay, tell me more about that.
An underwater venue offers a deeply immersive, almost sensory deprivation level of exclusivity. When you are surrounded by millions of gallons of water and thick acrylic walls, the acoustic environment completely changes. The outside world just ceases to exist.
All right, there's no city traffic, no natural sunlight to give you a sense of time.
Exactly. The blue ambient light actually triggers a physiological response, gently lowering heart rates and forcing the visual processing center of the brain to adapt.
Wow.
Yeah, it forces the guests to be entirely present in this magical, suspended state. The floating floral decor enhances that feeling of zero gravity. It is an incredibly potent psychological trick.
It sounds like choosing between being an elegant mermaid or a high-end desert explorer. So it is the ultimate captive audience. You're physically and psychologically insulated from reality.
Totally.
But then your sources contrast that extreme enclosure with the desert resorts. And to be clear, we're not talking about a rustic bohemian tent with some string lights.
Oh, not at all.
This is ultra-luxury. Sand dune sunset ceremonies, massive firework displays, neutral earth tones, and mile-long candlelit pathways.
The desert offers the exact opposite psychological trigger to the aquarium. It is about vastness, infinite space, where the underwater venue compresses your focus inward. The desert expands it outward toward dramatic natural scenery under open stars. You have sweeping firework displays because you actually have the unrestricted airspace to execute them.
But logistically, how are they pulling this off? I mean, how do you serve a 5-star multi-course meal on a sand dune without it being a disaster.
By building a shadow infrastructure?
A shadow infrastructure.
Yeah. To host an ultra-luxury event in a raw desert, production teams are essentially building a temporary mini-city. They have to install interlocking subflooring under the sand just so guests' meals can walk to their tables.
Oh, of
They're
course.
bringing in massive silence generators placed miles away to provide power without ruining the acoustic isolation. They are building temporary military-grade kitchens hidden behind dunes so the catering staff can execute a Michelin-level menu.
This is unbelievable.
It is. The neutral earth tone aesthetics ground the event in nature, but the engineering behind it is what elevates it to a profound, high-end experience.
It is the illusion of effortless nature, backed by millions of dollars of hidden machinery. It makes perfect sense. If you want a truly private celebration in 2026, what is more private than the bottom of a commercial aquarium or a GPS coordinate in the middle of a desert?
Exactly.
But for the couples who don't want to force their guests into extreme isolation, the trend splits again. The data highlights two familiar yet highly elevated extremes: the pinnacle of urban sophistication and the deep retreat into the forest.
The concrete jungle versus the enchanted forest.
Right. For the urbanites, we are looking at rooftops and skylines in cities like Dubai, New York, Paris, and Singapore. The vibe here is chic, cocktail-style receptions, stunning nighttime photography with panoramic cityscapes, and sleek contemporary decor.
Very cosmopolitan.
Exactly. And then, for the nature lovers, we have hidden forest venues. Think storybook romance. Hanging fairy lights, tree houses, woodland ceremony aisles, and misty cinematic photography. So what does this all mean? How can a sleek, modern rooftop in Dubai possibly share the same DNA as a misty treehouse in a hidden forest?
On the surface, they seem completely at odds. But the source document reveals the connective tissue between these two extremes. It is a massive, driving movement in the 2026 market eco-luxury and sustainability.
Hold on, I have to push back on that.
Yeah.
You were telling me a couple flying 200 guests on commercial jets to a luxury rooftop in Dubai, or helicoptering them into a pristine forest, is doing it under the banner of sustainability. That feels like a massive contradiction. How do planners reconcile that cognitive dissonance?
It is a paradox, and it requires a highly sophisticated logistical approach to solve. The document stresses that sustainable luxury is no longer a niche hippie trend.
Okay.
It is a baseline demand for younger, high-net-worth couples. They want the extravagant design, but they refuse to accept the traditional environmental guilt that comes with it. So planners reconcile this through extreme, localized offsetting and zero-impact on-site builds.
Okay. What does a zero-impact on-site build actually look like in a forest?
It means you aren't just pitching a tent on the grass. Planners are installing suspended, temporary walkways so the root systems of the ancient trees aren't compacted by hundreds of guests.
Oh, wow.
It means utilizing solar microgrids brought in on electric trucks so you aren't running diesel generators in a preserved woodland. The catering is hyper-localized, sourcing every single ingredient within a 50-mile radius to cut down on supply chain emissions.
And what about the Dubai rooftop?
In the urban centers, it is about utilizing venues that meet the absolute highest green building certifications. We are talking about event spaces powered entirely by integrated solar glass, utilizing gray water recycling systems, and implementing zero-waste culinary programs where all organic matter is composted off-site.
So the wow factor isn't just visual anymore, it is ethical.
Yes.
The flex isn't just that you could afford to build a luxury treehouse for one night. The flex is that you built it, partied in it, and removed it without leaving a single trace that you were ever there.
Exactly. The ability to execute an extravagant event without leaving a massive carbon footprint adds a layer of modern sophistication to the celebration. It is an expression of their values, securely tied to their personal brand.
Which naturally brings us to the reality of actually pulling one of these events off. Having toured these incredible spaces with the data you provided, from the historical cliffs to the electrochromic glass domes, the underwater sensory deprivation tanks, and the solar-powered tree houses, the discussion has to shift to the horizon line.
Right.
What does the absolute bleeding edge of this industry look like when it comes to execution?
Because, as we have established, selecting a dramatic wedding venue is a massive logistical puzzle. Planners have to balance guest comfort and accessibility against the desire for a remote, dramatic location.
Definitely.
They have to track seasonal weather patterns, manage international vendor supply chains, and secure absolute exclusivity.
It is staggering. But the document outlines that the industry is looking toward advanced technology to solve some of these environmental and logistical challenges. We are seeing a rise in hybrid indoor-outdoor architecture specifically designed to mitigate the weather risks of these extreme locations.
Yes, that's a big part of it.
But the most intriguing elements in your data are purely technological.
The